Hi, friends. Welcome to part one of lesson eight, the saltwater habitat. And let's listen to our song. And the saltwater habitat in the song is, I think, my favorite part of the whole video. So let's take a particularly close look. I'm going to turn off my camera for this. Let's listen.
I am an explorer of this beautiful earth, from the jungle to the polar caps. There are so many different homes for living things, and we call them habitats. The forest is made up of trees and animals. Oxygen and water are the norm. Temperate means it goes through different seasons, and tropical means it's very wet and warm. A forest is a home for living things, and it's one of the habitats. Grasslands can have many titles: pampas, prairies, savannas, or steppes. And just like forests, they can be tropical or temperate. A grassland is a home for living things, and it's one of the habitats. Fresh water can be a marsh or river, a wetland, a swamp, or a lake. And fresh water can be ideal for insects, for beavers, and snakes. Fresh water is a home for living things, and it's one of the habitats. The poles include the Arctic and Antarctic. Both are very dry and cold, and animals need blubber or hibernation if they want to live around the poles. A polar biome is a home for living things, and it's one of the habitats. A desert's dry and doesn't have much water. Some species live by storing it inside. Some hide beneath the sand when it gets hotter, and come out in the open when it's night. A desert is a home for living things, and it's one of the habitats. The ocean is vast and it's all salt water, with jellyfish, whales, and sharks. From the coral reef in the shallow parts to the deep where it's always dark. The ocean is a home for living things. There are even more homes for living things. So many different homes for living things, and we call them habitats.
Perfect. So, welcome to our study of the saltwater ocean today. And before we get started, we have some vocabulary words. And the first of our vocabulary words is plankton. Plankton. So, plankton are very small animals or plants that drift in salt or fresh water. And I actually have plankton that are out here in my bay. So, those are nouns, those are plankton. And regeneration is the process of regrowing a body part, such as a limb or an organ. So, some of us know that if a lizard's tail drops off because something grabs it, like a bird or a person, it can drop its tail and then grow another one. Sea stars, also called starfish, can grow back one of their arms if they get pulled off or eaten by a crab, which we have found when we've been out crabbing. So, plankton and regeneration. And then shallow is an adjective, and shallow means it's water that is not deep. It's shallow. You think about the shallow end is where a lot of kids who don't know how to swim, they kind of hang out. Our next word is slopes. So, slopes doesn't always mean like a ski slope or a mountain slope, but there are slopes in the ocean where it goes from shallow into deeper waters. And depending on how deep the water is, will depend on what lives there, what type of fish or plants. And our last word for the day is valleys. Those are lowlands between two areas of highlands. So, this right here is a valley. So in the ocean, you can have ocean valleys in, you can have valleys in the ocean. So two steep slopes will form to have a little valley down there. So let's get started with our tour with Rattenborough today. And I'm going to turn off my camera for now, and I'll be back at the end. Let's listen. Welcome to the last habitat that we are going to explore. In the last read aloud, we explored freshwater habitats. Now we're going to learn about another kind of water habitat, a saltwater habitat. Saltwater habitats, as you could guess from their name, contain lots of salt. This means that we can't use salt water for drinking. Would you like to drink a cup of salty water? No, thank you. It's hard to imagine, but more of the earth is covered in water than in land. Most of the water is salt water in oceans and seas. Oceans are huge areas of salt water that stretch all around our planet, and they are home to almost half of the world's species of animals and millions of different plants. The water in the ocean comes from rain as well as from rivers and streams that flow into the oceans. Seas are smaller areas of salt water that have land around them or around part of them. So our next picture shows a coastline, and we see those around here. I've come to the largest ocean, the Pacific Ocean, to show you a bit more about ocean habitats and the plants and animals that live in them. I'm standing on a beach looking out at the water. You can see that the waves are crashing onto the beach. This beach and any land that runs alongside the ocean is called the coastline or shoreline. Now, you may think that when you're standing on the land looking at the water, that the land stops where the water starts. It certainly looks that way, but let me get my trusty scuba gear and walk out into the water. Well, now that I'm here, I'm still standing on land. It's just that the land is under the water. The land slopes downward the farther I go out into the water, which means the water is getting deeper and deeper. So, friends, this is a great picture of a valley that I was talking about. The interesting thing about the ocean floor, which is the land under the ocean water, is that it isn't flat. As on land, the earth beneath the ocean waters has mountains and valleys. Mountains are areas of land that are very high when the land comes to its highest point. The valleys are areas of lowland between two areas of highland. So this is just like if we were to see these mountains and valley that weren't underneath the water. This makes some areas of the water in the ocean deeper than others. The Pacific Ocean is full of both plant and animal life, but not all of them share the same space. The conditions under the water are very different in various places. Some parts are deep and some are shallow. So, shallow is the opposite of deep. In other words, shallow is not deep. There are cool parts of the ocean and there are warm parts of the ocean. Some are dark and some are full of light. Look at this sea life, friends. There are plants and animals in nearly every part of the ocean, some in the deep, open waters far from land, and some in the shallow waters closer to the shore. Some animals, like turtles, jellyfish, and crabs, live closer to the shore where it's shallower and warmer. Some animals like it better near the surface of the water, and others prefer to live down at the very bottom of the ocean on the deep ocean floor. They have all had to adapt to the conditions of their habitats. For instance, the animals that live in the deeper parts of the ocean have had to adapt to total darkness because the sun's light just can't reach that deep. Some fish, like the devilfish, have very large mouths and sharp teeth so that they can catch their prey as easily as possible. Other sea creatures have feelers on their bodies that help them feel where their food is. And some animals make their own light with special chemicals in their bodies, like when you carry a flashlight in the dark. So, friends, we are going to stop at this point because this next section talks about the animals of the deep. And I'm wondering if some of the animals that we might meet might be the type of animals that make